All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Chaos Conversation in the building.
Here.
Another day. Hey, March is here. It's March Madness time. Let's go.
Oh, you know it, man. Just only thing I'm mad at, man, in this world going on right now is all this daggone weather fluctuation, man. What's up with that, man?
It's nuts, man. You got snow. It was snowing in Southern California. It was almost 90 degrees here one day, and then 3 days later, it was 30 degrees.
Yeah, and then it dropped down because it's like 40, 44, 46.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, last week was about 72, 74.
Yeah.
This weather fluctuation right here is what be kicking the hell out of some folks right here, man.
Well, especially like allergies, right? Let's say you have, let's say you're allergic to like seasonal stuff like pollen and all that or whatever. And then, so those people are probably happy. Yeah. We got some ice, a little bit of snow the other day. So, you know.
I mean, it rained what, Sunday?
It
rained Sunday.
It was like freezing rain, a little bit of snow, whatever it was doing.
Mm-hmm. And see that even goes back, man. When you got that kind of weather, it's like, all right, believe it or not, Franklin, when you're in relationships, your role still matters. Even when you change, like, all right, you fellas,
that's when women remember that the role still matters. Oh, can you go shovel the driveway for me?
Women be out there freezing. They be trying to look good, sleeveless because it was so nice. They have their sleeveless, and then they go outside. It's warm or the temperature's okay when you go in the restaurant. But when your butt come out, the sun done went down, it's gotten dark, and you come out, and the fellas are out there with the light jackets on. You know what I mean? And the women out there freezing. Trying to just walk into the car. It's like, all right, fellas, it's okay to give you a jacket to your girl for, about what, 2 minutes to get to the car. It's all right. I mean, it may not even matter what she's wearing.
No, you should have brought your own jacket.
Hey, man. Hey, dude, like I said, it's okay. I ain't saying you always have to, but it's okay. You should, but hey, again.
Yeah. How's your week been?
Oh man, my week. Hey, Sam, I'll show you and all the fellas how my week went. You heard how my week went, man. Acting on YouTube, hey, getting people to laugh their butt off like I do as best I can at no charge. So shoot, man, I did that, and then got some other. Did a lot of studying, man, for this real estate exam after I did my 9 to 5. Joined.
There you go. Well, hey, check it out. Chaos Conversation. You can check us out on Facebook, Chaos Conversation, and you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on TikTok, Chaos Convo 01. We're starting to put a little ads on there. You might see Bruce interviewing people when he's out and about in the city, talking to people about relationships and be asking some questions.
That's what I did.
We're editing those and putting those up on TikTok. So, hey, go follow us there. Go follow me. If you haven't liked and subscribed, follow us on YouTube at Chaos Conversation. Pretty much all the platforms. Hey, follow us, check out the content, and see what we're all about, and see how Bruce can either embarrass himself or other people in public.
Nobody. I'll be embarrassed. Nobody, man. Like today, man. I interviewed. I mean, you know how people are, man. I'm up there on my phone talking to one friend of mine, and then there's people around me bringing themselves into my conversation. I'm like, dude, what the heck? I mean, I didn't say all that. I'm like, dude,
why you're on
I didn't say nothing to you, but you want to talk about what I'm talking about? Come on, man. So I interviewed them.
Now, you on the phone, or you just recording it? You just talking to them and recording it?
I was, well, that's the thing was I couldn't record, man, because, battery's about to die and all that mess, so I didn't even bother recording. And
okay.
But I interviewed them, and I interviewed them about, I don't think they're married. They must be engaged or something. But all I know is that the woman had a son, and they were staying with the dude. And I think they said they got either 2 kids on the way, or they got 2 kids of their own, something like that. I think she was pregnant with 2 of them. I couldn't tell she was pregnant though. But the whole point was she didn't feel that he was right for disciplining her son. That's a whole different conversation. I just touched on that in a commercial I did a few minutes ago. But that's not what today's topics are about. But I'm like, that's what I'll do, man. People who want to talk relationships in the community, I hear what they're about. I'll see what they're about. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's the best way. people say, you know, they want to hear their voice, they want to get their voice out there.
Mm-hmm.
We record this way, you know, we're not physically on the radio like we were, but you know, hey, this is a good way. You see Bruce out and about in the city, you can't mistake that bald head. You know, if you see this ugly mug walking down the street, you know exactly who it is. But if he's out and about, hey, ask him a question. Roll up to him and ask him a question, and so he'll start. So he will start recording, and don't be ashamed. Hey, if you bold enough to roll up on us and discuss relationships, guess what? You might be put on social media. So we just letting you know.
Yeah, I'll let them know. I mean, I wanted to get them on camera, but they didn't want. My joint was like already half dead, and I mean, they said, you know, don't worry about it anyway, which means no thank you. So I was like, all right, cool. So everything just played out. But I remember their conversation, man. But go ahead.
Let's jump right into it. You know,
go ahead with your foot.
You know, for a little while now, at least for a year or so, I would say, this term passport bros has come up. And, you know, a lot of people, I would say probably more, I don't know, some people don't know about it. If you do, then you hear people all over social media about it sometimes. But we wanted to tell you what this passport bros thing is about, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it and give you our thoughts, right? So essentially, passport bros are guys who have essentially chosen to seek out women outside of the United States for a relationship. Typically, these guys believe that Western women or women in the U.S. have been influenced by cultural and societal pressures to behave a certain way or do certain things. So these guys that call themselves passport bros, and that's what they call themselves.
Hey.
They believe they can find more, what's the right word? Authentic, real women, real women in their definition outside of the U.S. for a relationship. I guess they could, and they harp on this whole like masculine versus feminine type thing and stuff like that. So that's essentially what the passport bros are. And you have women all over social media, especially if you go on like Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah.
You know, they're always debating this on TikTok. You know, I've gotten into many conversations from the Chaos Conversation page on TikTok. Go subscribe and follow us. Having conversations with people, especially it's usually women. It's usually groups of women talking about passport bros, and you know they have varying opinions on it or whatever. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Bruce state his opinion on that first, or his, you know, what his thoughts are, and then I'll provide my thoughts.
I mean, I'll say like this, man. There's a lot of bros do that, but there's also, I just talked to a Hispanic sister, even though she, you know, this is passport bros. She even said herself she don't like to date Mexican men. And she's Mexican. She's born here in the U.S., but she said she don't like to date Mexican. But I mean, because she said they're too controlling. That's not who she is. But she's born here in America. I'm like, okay. So
now, did she say women criticize her, or does she get, you know, negative feedback?
Yeah.
Okay.
She did. Okay. You know what's crazy? The other girls that she was with, because you know me, she was the first one who sat down. And so I kind of, you know, asked her, does she mind doing a quick interview? She said, yeah, sure. So she kind of branched off, and then we talked, and the rest of her girls are getting their food at I think I was at Panel Bread. I was at Panel Bread. Yeah, I believe that was it. We were Panel Bread, and the rest of her girls are in line getting their food and stuff. She already got all her stuff, and you know, I just pull anybody because I like, you know, I like diversity. You know, I like different cultures. And so when she told me that, come to find out, all her friends seem to have, not all of them were Hispanic, but they all seem to be with the same race that they were. But she was not like that. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, because, but even though we're talking about, you know, men who do that, a lot of men who they're traumatized, they're fed up, or they just straight up, they've had enough, man. Or they're just
traumatized. How are they traumatized?
Oh man, I know men who have been so traumatized by women here in the U.S. because as one, I spoke with guys and they tell me, man, our women, how they say it. This is a separate subject we're gonna touch on. But one guy told me our women here in the U.S. are too spoiled by what they hear, what they see. They don't even know who or what they want. But other women in other foreign countries, they know how bad it is not to have freedom. They know how bad it is not to have this, have no say-so in the household. So when I find me one, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna let her have a little freedom. I'm gonna let her have a little say so in the relationship, and she can appreciate that. But here in the U.S., they are women are too. He just said women of all races, colors, cultures. In the U.S., he just said to top it all off, they're too spoiled. They say all the single ladies, put a ring on it. They hear that stuff and they try to live it here. Not I said they live it. I'm saying they try to live like that here in the U.S.
Now, spoiled. Now you say spoiled. You said spoiled. Spoiled how?
Spoiled. I mean spoiled as in they want a man to play the old school way of living with them. Take care of all the bills, treat her like a queen and everything. Okay, fine. But he was like, they don't return the favor. They want old school traditional rules here in the U.S., but they ain't trying to play their rule of the old school of, fixing food, taking care of the household. They ain't trying to do that. They want the old school man to take care of them like a father figure. And like, he ain't your father. He's your husband. He's your man. Which one? But he's not your father. So his complaint was she don't want to play her role, but she wants the old role of women want the man to play the role the old they did back in tradition, man. That was his thing. But women don't play her role.
I've observed a lot of, when usually it's groups of females that are talking about. Usually it's like a guy and it's a lot of females attacking that guy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Some defend it, some don't. It varies or whatever. But I would say more have negative things to say about this group of guys that consider themselves the passport bros. So essentially, like we said, to those just tuning in, these guys, it's a group of guys that call themselves passport bros, who for whatever reason, there's a wide variety of reasons, they're tired of dealing with women, what they call in Western society. But we live in the U.S., so let's talk about the U.S. Okay. They're tired of dealing with women in the U.S., mm-hmm. So they get their passports, they leave and go meet women in other countries, and the list of those countries are very long, right? And they try to seek happiness there for various reasons.
That's what
a lot of women attack these guys, and they'll say that they're weak, they don't know how to deal with a independent woman or a strong woman, or they'll say, oh, these guys are unattractive, they can't get a woman here, stuff like that. So what's your I'm gonna tell you my responses in a minute after you do it.
I got something for that, man. Go ahead.
No, what is your response to that? Now, I'm not saying you're a passport bro, but what is your response to women attacking these guys that choose to find a relationship outside of the U.S.?
Hey, when you are sitting there that insecure, that means you're probably guilty of putting a man through some bullshit. That's what that means. And you sitting here putting men through some BS because of how you were raised or what you listen to or what you watch or who you hang around. That's the reason you're putting a woman. That's why it may bother you. And some men, that bothers them too when women do that. But this is about the fellas, brothers passport. Yeah. So
we're not talking about passport gals.
There are some about the fellas right now, so we're gonna stick to the fellas. So ladies, when it bothers the hell out of you to see him go overseas and him go find a foreign woman or whatever, or a woman not of his race, because there are some, African sisters out there who are nice as
they could be the same race. It's just saying outside.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. So I mean, they're out the country. So I'm just speaking of those, like if a man finds a woman overseas who's not the same race he is, that don't mean he's weak. No, because again, going back to what we said way back when we first started the show, men only want normally is not every single time. Get that right. Normally is just a man wants respect, love, and trust. Those are the top three things just about all men want. And when a woman here in the U.S. can't even show him and be consistent enough with him and give him all three, not really give him, but allow him to earn that from you, when you won't even allow a man to earn that from you, that's when he'll go overseas, because he sees or reads or hears that women overseas, they got those basic fundamental three things, down packed. They don't be sitting there making them starve to death for it. They don't be sitting there disrespecting before they respect him as a man and give that to him, or they let him earn it on first base. You sitting here waiting for him to go to third base on the way home before you even show that to him. So you can't say he's weak for that. No. Or he's intimidated by you. Ain't no man intimidated. No real man is intimidated by a woman. Take note.
you know, I won't comment on that, but I'll just say this. I don't think my opinion on the whole Passport Bros movement, and I call it a movement because it's become more popular, especially with social. You know, I don't have anything against those guys, right? What it means is they're leaving more women for the single guys out here in the U.S. You know, for whatever reason, there's a lot of I've heard lots of reasons why guys have chosen to do this. I don't know what's controversial about it, right? We're used to, you and I both have a lot of family members in the military. We're in the military, veterans. Guys did this all the time when they were in the military, you know?
Oh, yeah.
They met women all over the world and married them, brought them back to the U.S. Nobody had anything to say, right? Yep. But now, all of a sudden, because these guys are choosing to, and some of them have left the U.S. and have moved and stayed in these other countries, which is perfectly fine.
That's fine.
Some of them meet form a relationship and then bring that person back to the U.S. I don't have a problem with that either. The problem I have is when they talk negative against the women that are here and they try to label all women as needy and selfish and masculine and all those things or whatever. Maybe it's the women they've been dealing with. And like you said, maybe these guys are damaged for whatever reason and they can't get the woman they want here. So they're like, oh, you know what? I can go over to, I'm not going to say any names. I can go over to whatever country. And because maybe the country's poor, the women don't have as much means as I have. So guess what? I can throw my money around. By me throwing my money around, guess what? Now I can get a woman that may need me. Maybe these women in the U.S. don't need you because guess what? They work just like you do. You know, maybe they don't need you. Yeah. But this, for whatever reason, maybe he wants to be
that's true
needed, right? So he goes over there, and I'm not saying he can't get that feeling here, but for whatever reason, you know, let's say they go to and I'm just being honest. From what I've seen, most of the time these guys are going to other countries that are they have less wealth and less standard of living than the U.S. does, right?
Less opportunity, you're saying?
Say that again?
Opportunity?
Oh, a lot of less opportunity, right? And maybe in that country, the men don't treat the women very well. So they go over there, they treat the women nice. Maybe they have more money than the average income than the country they're going to. So it makes them seem their status is elevated, right?
Yeah.
Now, do I have anything against that? No. Guess what? Life is you have freedom in this life, and that's your choice. If you choose to do that, guess what? You got to be ready for the consequences, because guess what? That same female could be using that as an opportunity to get out of that country, using you for a marriage, using you for a green card, using you to become a U.S. citizen, and then boom, she's out. You know, I think people, if you're choosing, which I have nothing against this, if you're choosing to become a passport bro or whatever name people want to call it or whatever, and leave the U.S., go find a relationship elsewhere, get married, you come back or come back and get married over here in the States, you have to use your better judgment very well, because people are looking to take advantage of you just the same way you're looking to find something elsewhere you can get taken advantage of pretty easy. So, you know, especially men tend to get taken advantage of a lot because we think a lot of guys think with one thing, right? And
here I'm gonna say like this, and here in America, most men won't get the respect he deserves unless he has a financial bag to support for his girl and himself in whatever situation he's in. I mean, we only know one homeboy who went to Central with you, who probably didn't have the financial bag there, but still had enough of what it took to, you know, meet his wife in college and still be married to her to this date and time. I ain't gonna mention his name right now, but very few women are like that. And it's like
times have changed since then as well. You know what I'm saying? We're not saying it's a long time. It's not a long time, but I would consider every 10 years a different generation, right? And so
well, nobody's 40, but yeah,
we're in a different generation of young people being, let's just say 30 and under, 30, and they think a lot differently than we do, right? And it's spread. I'm not just gonna talk trash about them, because it's spreading to other age groups. Yeah. You see people 30 to 40, 40 to 50. and they all feel the same way. You know what I'm saying?
You got seniors who are trying it the newest generation's way of, what they hear, what they see is what they want. Okay, well, my man, my woman can't provide me those needs, so I need to, look elsewhere. I'm like, nah. I mean, that's how I say marriages are not the same, but I see couples who still do that. It's like when the hard, tough times come in relationships, if a man if a man, passport bro, wants to go overseas or wants to even meet somebody online, because some people, sometimes he can meet her online, and hey, if she wants to come this way, then hey, here's
I'm
where
actually glad you brought that up, because I did read a lot of them originally meet online, and then the guy may go travel, or usually the guy will go travel and then try to maybe they get a green card, or not a visa, and try to come to the States.
They got FaceTime now. They got all these gadgets where you can talk to people face to face and be online, get a feel of who he or she is, and then you got women right here and men right here in your face, and they can't do right. It's like, all right, sometimes you see a lot more men men can normally have kids at almost any stage of his life. Almost don't mean normally, I'm gonna say 70 and below. Sometimes it might be older. I don't know.
About a guy had a kid, he was he? He was early 70s.
Early 70s. See, there you go. So a man can have a
child.
Not
the norm. That's not the norm, of course.
So if a man like me, I'm 40. I don't have a kid yet. But if I get to the point where I prefer to be married before I have a kid, which is what my heart desires, what my preference is as well, then if I can't find one here in America and I happen to run across one who's, she lives overseas, I mean, hey, I'm gonna seize the moment if it presents itself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Would you travel specifically to meet someone outside of the U.S.?
Yeah, I would, but I have to have that. For me, I have to have enough confidence, enough respect from her, enough, we have to do some good communication, and for her to show me who she is. But I'm not gonna just specifically like take a cruise overseas and country for no week or month just to look for one. That's not the way.
Some of the guys do that, what you just said, and some don't. But like you said, you would, if you were talking to them beforehand, then you went. Then that's because that's different.
Prime example. I went on a cruise in 2005. Right, it was a family cruise in 2005. I met about 4 women who were actually overseas. They actually were. And and the reason why they took the cruise was because they said they were going to visit. 2 of them, I think, 2 of them said this cruise was going to visit their country or something. But
where they were,
they told me they were in the States visiting relatives, but they actually do live at the place where this cruise was going past. So, all right, cool. But so I hung with them, played spades, got dances in with them, got some pizza, hung out with them, got to know them. And for some reason, and I also met a woman up there who she didn't know me, but she knew a colleague of mine who did prepaid legal. So her and I are talking, and she's from Maryland. So So I'm looking at women who are here in the U.S. versus those who were the 4 women who were foreign, and I'm like, the attitude, the respect, there's a huge difference in their attitude. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just, I can't say it's the way they were raised, but I guess it's because, to me, it seemed like the women who came from who came from overseas, they seem to have more respect because they don't get this every day. They don't even get this option that often where they live at. Where here in the U.S., you can take a cruise anytime you want to, as long as you got that money. Where
I guess you can say that. Yeah, I really understand that. I guess you can say that again about both males and females.
Yeah.
Or about people from the U.S. in general. And I won't even. We live in the U.S. and we just talk about the U.S. But a lot of people say the same thing about Western, in quote, Western country or industrialized countries or whatever.
Yeah.
That we have access to all these different things. Instant. You look at Amazon. Like if I want to get, there's certain things depending on where you live, you can go on the app or whatever, order, and it's at your house within 2 hours. You know what I'm saying? You live on an island, somewhere. It doesn't work like that. You might have to order
it just for that, man.
Right. You might have to order it a few weeks before you need it. It's just, and depending on what country you live in, right?
In some countries, you have to be in your house by sundown too.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere is different. So I mean, the key thing you said was opportunity,
Yeah.
right? I think a lot of people, especially in the States, sometimes we don't take advantage of the opportunities we have. In this situation, maybe that if a guy, let's say one of these passport bros went overseas without speaking to a female, he just wanted to go explore another country, right?
Yep. Have fun.
And meet women in that country or whatever.
Mm.
And for you and I who have been and traveled
Yep.
the world in various countries or whatever, we could testify firsthand that, yeah, once you go to certain countries, there's certain countries, many of them look just like the U.S. There's others that look like the very poorest parts of the U.S., but we're talking about the vast, whereas 90% of that country may look like the very poorest and worst parts of the U.S. in terms of poverty level, right?
Yeah.
And even worse. So when they have the opportunity to meet someone, especially from the States or whatever, they jump all over it.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Black men and how we appear to the rest of the Black Americans, I should say, Black male Americans, and how we appear to the rest of the world. A lot of times, the only thing they know of us outside of the U.S. is especially in, like, if you're in a country that's a non-Western country, non-industrialized country, is what they see on TV, what they see on talk shows, what they see on movies, what they see is.
That's what everybody jumps back to, man.
Right,
like, what they see.
LeBron and Kobe. That's what they see. That's their image of Black men in the U.S. or whatever. So when they see somebody that doesn't fit that mold, they're blown away. Oh, and you have money? Oh, they're blown away. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing that I touch on was the respect factor. The one thing I want to touch on is the respect factor, and I think men and women in the U.S. I think the respect factor has gone down.
Oh yeah,
across all genders. So when you do go outside of the U.S. and you meet, let's say you went outside the U.S., like you said, you're on a cruise and maybe you stopped in, I don't know, Brazil or something, and you were walking around in tourist areas doing things and whatever, and a female, let's say you made eye contact, you decided to, let's say she spoke a little English, so you decided to talk to her. Maybe the way she approached you, or the interaction might be drastically different than maybe in LA, maybe different in Miami, different from New York or whatever, or Dallas or wherever, any major city in the US, because we're used to certain conveniences and things like that here. Whereas in some other countries, depending on where that person was born or where they live in that country or in the city they live in, it's a completely different world,
And one thing people, I think, forget is the way that people are brought up and raised is a lot to do with who they are, who they become. And you think about it here now, you think somebody who's raised with no rights, or somebody who's raised with no options, somebody who's raised almost as a prisoner from the day they're born, is not going to appreciate freedom and peace of mind a lot more than somebody who's been raised to, hey, come home when you want to, say what you want, do what you want, think what you want. It's going to be a completely different ball game, a completely different family. And even in the commercial I did right before this show, where I was talking about a mother or father being able to discipline their child that's not theirs, so forth and so on. That is a lot to do with the person's upbringing of how they're going to be with their wife or their husband in the future. And when you look at people who are overseas, man, foreign countries, how you're brought up is a huge difference in the marriage and the commitment and who a person is. And then you got men and women here, but especially a lot of ladies who are spoiled because it's before like I just to transition a little bit is again, ladies, you want your man to run your relationship with him or your marriage with him old school. Okay, that's fine, but does he want to run it that way? Does he want to live that way? And are you playing your role as the old school woman, the old school wifey? Because that's another thing. A lot of women who are foreign, they stick to the only way they know of, and that's listen to what the man says. That's all they know.
A lot of it is. I'm glad you brought that up, though. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm grown. They talking about, I'm a grown ass. You ain't my daddy. They ain't saying none of that because they're scared. Well, I say they're scared to. They're brought up and raised and taught not to. So old school way of man pay for this, man take care of household. I mean, yeah, woman take care of the household, man take care of bills and all this other, and be the head of the household. That's the only way they know. But a lot of times women, they here in the U.S. especially, they want so much independence. They don't know how to, as Michelle Obama once said, they don't know how to take their foot off the gas without smashing on the brake, or smashing the brakes of a man when it comes to career, when it comes to role playing, when it comes to, playing their role. When it comes to that, a lot of women they still haven't learned, or some women just don't want to learn. And it's like, all right, if a man's going to go overseas to just get peace, love, respect, joy, and happiness, because he's tried it here many times and he keeps running into the same thing. But again, I'm always telling people, and you've heard me say this before, you are always going to attract a man or woman who is as close to perfect as you are.
Charmaine, what's up?
What's going on? How you be, Chris?
Woo, it's been a minute.
What's she talking about? I'm going to say. Okay.
We're just talking about we're talking about this whole movement of passport guys leaving the U.S.
Passport bro, and a lot of men say what?
I was just saying what the topic was, but what you said was key right there. You said you said old school versus new school, but a lot of times when I'm hearing these discussions and seeing these discussions with these groups of, usually it's the women that are talking or whatever. They said that, or a lot of times, I'm not gonna say a lot of times these women are saying, some of the women are angry, right? And I completely understand.
Angry about what?
All right, we'll get into that in a second. Others are saying, I don't care. Let them go do their thing. Let them find a relationship wherever they can find it, right? Mm-hmm. But the one angry, I feel like I empathize, because the reason I understand it is, if you look at it's a numbers game, right?
It is.
We talk about this all the time, especially if you're talking about a black female, and let's say she wants a black male as a partner. And guess what? If you play the numbers game, and you say, okay, you take away guys that are married, you take away guys that are, gay, and then you take away guys that are in prison, take away guys that are, let's say,
have mental health issues.
Right. And then you say, okay, well, if I want a guy that makes X amount of dollars a year and does this and that, so that list continues to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So let's say you have your list. Let's just pretend we're talking about 100 guys in the country.
Okay.
That list dwindles down to about, let's say 10 people, maybe 10%. And so now you have a huge group of women that, let's say, are single, and now you're trying to fight over these 10 guys, or the 10% that are available.
Yeah.
That can be very frustrating, especially depending on where you live. So I tried to see it from their perspective and say, okay, yeah, I get it why some are angry, and some are like, well, why? But the real reason they're angry is because these guys, some of these passport bros are, they dissing the women in the U.S. You know what I'm saying? And so I have a problem with that. I'm just like, if you want to go leave and find love, or whatever you call love, somewhere else, go for it. I'm down. I'm all about it. But don't try to play the women that are here, right? Because I'm sure these guys have mothers and sisters, maybe sisters, but they definitely have a mother. And so how you gonna talk down about your own mother as being a female that lives in the U.S. just because maybe you had a bad experience one time, a bad relationship? Like, we've all had bad relationships, you know what I'm saying? So don't play all the women just because you feel like that. So from that perspective, I get where they were coming from.
Man, Sam, I'm gonna say like this, man. I'm gonna say like this. All right, check it out, fellas. You judge every woman and talk every woman, and same thing goes for women. You can't sit here and judge every man until you've dated every kind of man, which is almost impossible. Almost impossible. So, fellas, when you're gonna sit here and down talk a woman, or ladies, when you're sitting and down talk a man, ask yourself this: would you date yourself if you were the opposite gender?
Woo! That's a good question.
Everybody else can't say hell yeah with no hesitation. Okay, just remember, none of us are perfect. So, okay, when a man wants to just find what he wants, and you can't provide it, that ain't no reason to hate. Same thing with the ladies, man. Same thing with the fellas. Fellas, when you can't provide for a woman, that don't mean hate. That don't mean down talk. And what it means is you just you ain't the one for her, or she ain't the one for you, and it's as easy as. But the biggest thing I find here in America, man, is the lack of chances that men give women and some women give men. And until you know that, just remember, facade, game, swag, all that fake that y'all want to, that draw your attention, all that fake mess is just enough to draw you in. But when a man or a woman doesn't show you that, and you still want to live old school, okay, I mean, even people back in the days, man, here in the U.S., they had game, they had swag, they had facade, they put on all that. But that's not what kept the marriage and the relationship going. And right. Sometimes there's a lot of men, if they won't even let a woman in his life who has the love, trust, respect, loyalty, all that other mess that he's looking for, they won't even let her in his life because she ain't got the body, or she ain't got what the body parts that's high on demand. Like I'll tell you, body parts of that are high on demand here in the U.S., whether it's for the ladies, whether it's the breast, the smile, the butt, the feet, they change, they change randomly because of what people see on TV a lot. So as that's changing, fellas and ladies, some of y'all like to go get your nails done, get your hair done, get all that stuff done to, meet those needs on demand. But when a man won't even let you in his life because you don't have that hair, nails done, breast, butt, feet, whatever it is, when you ain't got that, that don't mean go change yourself just to try to get the attention, because that's almost, here in America, you still want the man to play his role, right? Okay, that's fine. Well, know how to play your role without changing who the hell you are. Fellas, same thing. Learn how to play your role.
You're saying changing from an external. You're saying external changing, though.
Yeah, external changing. Don't try and do too much external changing just to meet or impress this woman, this man of who you're not. Because after you commit, after you marry him or her, all that mess is going to show itself. And before you know it, like I said, true colors are going to show, and he or she is going to find a reason to leave your assets for a man, or a woman that that's overseas.
Some people need an external change, Bruce. I'm just saying.
You say what now?
I said some people may need an external change.
Like what? Like what?
Some people might need what do they call them? Glow ups. Some people may need that. Maybe it's a confidence booster for them. They say, you know what, this will help me feel more confident about myself if I go get a nose job or whatever.
Let me say this, Sam. Let me say this. And see, it's called a change for a reason. Okay, it's called change. Changing meaning you can change it whenever you want to. That's a change. But if you're going to do a personal update in yourself, a personal update is okay. And there's a big difference.
You call it an update, like they're updating their computer.
Okay, for example,
update button.
I'm gonna give the fellas and the ladies a prime example. Like me shaving, that shaving, that is a update. Now, did I change my hair? I did not really change my hair. I decided to go bald because I was going bald. That is more of an update than a change, because my hair can still grow back. I just don't want it to. So that's not changing. Is it confidence? Yes, a little bit of confidence. But it wasn't to impress. It's an upgrade, an update in who I am as I grow, develop, mature.
Yeah. What's the difference between a female saying, whatever, I had some changes done for me. It's not for this guy over here, or this guy over here, or this girl over here. It's for me personally. And if it draws attention, it draws attention. But it's for me, for them to feel better about themselves.
And that's update. That's an update. That's not a complete change in themselves. Where when an update is because people have different emotions and feelings, and some lose confidence, some don't care, some everybody's situation is different. Right. But my thing is, you can tell the change in somebody when they are doing it to impress versus doing it to better themselves. Like a lot of people have told me they've seen the update that I've done in life over time. I was like, okay, well, what you can recall me as or remember me as is when I was in my late 20s throughout my 30s, and I'm 40. I'm 4 decades young now. So yeah, there's gonna be some upgrading
Right.
that I've done to
I mean,
better.
some of that natural, right?
Yeah, it's to better myself. It's not to impress nobody. Like, you ain't gonna catch me sagging, because sagging is just not what I do. And I mean, those who want to go ahead, but it's just not me. So I ain't change myself into trying to dress like that just to impress them. Now that's changing right there, because that's not who I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's stuff like that. There's stuff like I mean, I used to not wear hats like the one you got on now. I used to not wear baseball caps at all. But I decided to just do a little update, do a little upgrade myself because I wanted to. I ain't impress nobody, because all the hats I wear, they ain't got no kind of design on them or anything. They just, that's what I like to wear sometimes. So, but a lot of times, men and women, they both do that. And when you do that, and sometimes women don't mean to, but when you try to change just for a man, to impress a man, you may not know it, but sometimes you reminded men of who they dealt with in the past, and not in a good way.
Yeah, I don't think you should,
Men,
especially. I mean, I think changes. Evolution is inevitable, right? Change is inevitable. Things are going to constantly change, but I feel like you are in a situation where you're like a dating situation,
yeah,
something like that, like an early stages of a relationship. You definitely be yourself and not try to be something you're not in terms of those changes, right? Just because you hear something or see something, you're like, oh, you know what? This person likes this. Let me dress this way because they like, I feel like you should always be your authentic self. And then guess what? You'll
we were like that Pee Wee Herman's slim jeans, man. And I'm like, I mean,
but you
do I have a?
will meet somebody. If you are your authentic self, you will meet somebody that truly is for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen next week, next month. It may not even happen this year, but eventually it will happen. And that relationship, I guarantee that relationship will be more authentic. It'll be more real, and it will most likely, it has a higher percentage of lasting longer than that other relationship that was built on lies and fakeness.
Game, all that fake swag. Yeah. And it's I'm telling people, as a matter of fact, the couple, even today, when I talked to them a little bit towards the end of the conversation, before the woman went to her table, I was like, and I asked again, did either one of y'all plan on meeting each other where you met each other? And they both were like, no, because whenever you're yourself and you let things come on gradually, you don't try to act, you don't have no game, you ain't got no swag, you don't try and do none of that to impress women or men.
Right.
That's normally when the right one will present his or herself. And when they do, the whole point is being able to seize the moment, regardless of where you're at. But acting like something like me, everybody who knows me knows I will be myself. I don't care who got what to say about me, because either you're gonna be attracted to something I say or do, or you're not. And if you're not meant to be. Nice doing business with you. Peace. See you next time. But hey,
it's gonna take a special female.
Yeah.
To handle all that shit.
Hey man, I mean, check it out. Last time I went to go see a Tank Davis fight. I never forget. There was only one woman there. Huh?
That in Vegas?
No, that was here. That was here in Cary. That's how I went to Cary.
Yeah. Okay.
It was that night. But the woman I was eyeing, she was the only one there attractive who was by herself until some dude came. And then, but there was two women who joined my table, and they both came with 3 kids, and they both were kind of young. The one was 28, the other was like 32 or 30, like that, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So I mean, I talked, and I chose one to. I was like, well, I talked to both of them. Where you from? What do you do? Blase, blase. I gave my one of them. They both had just came out of bad relationships. So I was like, all right. I just chose one to stick to. Gave my contact info to, and I said, you know what? If she calls, I'll see what she about. And she dope, oh well, But I didn't try to get her number, keep her number on my phone right away, because it was just, I'm like, 2 women, 2 friends. Like, why'd you choose her over me? And I ain't trying to start no mess like that. So
right.
It's when people are out here and they're still wanting to live the old school way of life, the way their parents taught them, the way their grandparents taught them. When you want to live like that, ladies and gents, just remember this: you have to know how to play and apply your role. You can't just expect the other party to play and apply his or her role, and you ain't prepared, and you ain't, playing yours. Well, me, like I've said before, there really is no role, there really is no rule book to how to be in a relationship. But for those of y'all who want to live by the old school ways your grandparents did or you did or whatever, just know if you are going to play by that, then know your role. That's the and both parties go in a relationship like that to lead to a marriage, then heck, all this stuff about who
do you think in today's society people can have you can, but do you think the majority can, I don't want to say majority, do you think it is possible to have a old school relationship with modern gender roles today?
No, because that's one of the ingredients. That's part of the recipe of why divorce rates are over 50%. Because people are taking,
that plays a factor, yeah.
It's taking modern, then you're taking old school, then you're taking biblical scripture, and you're trying to mush it into your preference, and it's not working. You either go all the way old school, or you go, stick to today's time. Like I said, that's why there should be no rules. You should go ahead and be able to find what works from you out of each recipe.
Okay.
Pull your ingredients out of modern, pull your ingredients out of tradition, pull your ingredients out of, the religion, if you decide to follow, whatever the case is, and be there for each other. And see, especially when when men and women are dating, this is the kind of things you're supposed to bring up and listen and take note on.
Gotcha.
And don't try, and whatever you do, let the person be themselves. You don't just hear them, watch their actions, see if their actions match with what they're saying. And that's why it's okay to date more than one person at a time, because if a woman dates, say, 3 men at a time,
completely agree.
And one man tells her, I believe in 50-50. I'm all about 50-50. If she's not about 50-50, woman, I don't care what else he says or does to you. That's a sign right there, because he's being himself. That's a sign for you to move on. And if he wonders why you moved on, why you ghosted him, then give yourself some time and tell his ass why you ghosted him. He made it loud.
I don't think people should ghost people. I think you should. When I was single and doing all that or whatever, I never ghosted anybody. That's a newer phrase, I would say, over the last 5 years. But I never ghosted anybody. I was straight up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And told them how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I am. I don't think this is going to work out for this specific reason. It's nothing against you personally. This is just how I feel, or I'm not or let's say they were ready to move on. Mm-hmm. They were, what you used to say, they were in a Lambo trying to race to the finish line, and I was in a Ford Pinto just chugging along. So different speeds, you know what I'm saying? But I don't feel like I feel like they should be honest with them and don't just disappear. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
don't be afraid to be honest with that person.
You can be honest with them, but this is dating we're talking about. And when you're dating, the reason why I say ghost them, who you have to, Sam, because you might, like I said, for men can date women at a different rate, different speed than women can date men for whatever reason. I don't know. Men don't get emotionally attached as fast, as much, as often.
Right.
But like me, I think the most I've dated at one time, and I wasn't trying to commit, and I wasn't sleeping with none of them either. But the most I dated at one time was like 4 at a time. And this was just to grow, develop, mature because of where I was at in my life. Hey, dating is dating, man. Like, because one of them was competitive, and the other 3 are like, you know what? I can't get my head done. I can't do nothing with my head. I can't do that. I'm like, they always had to walk around in heels. They weren't competitive. And one girl, she liked going to the gun range. She liked going to the gym. She liked competitive actions. Things.
I like it.
Was so romantic. She was just in the house, Netflix. That's all she liked to do. She didn't like to go out and, movies and dinner. And she liked me to cook at her place or cook at mine. So each one was like, I was learning from them at the same time, but they weren't looking for, only one of them was looking for commitment, marriage. And I'm like, okay. But as I'm filling them out, I'm learning. I'm teaching them. I'm learning from them as well. and only one of them wants to get married in the next 2 years. So I'm like, all right. I mean, I hear her, and I'm like, you know what? I hear you want to get married. I'm not there yet, but and this is why I had to. The only one I ghosted was the one who kept pestering me, bugging me, texting me, and she just wouldn't stop. And I'm like, okay, I've told her this
Straight
while
up.
we're out. I've told her this while we're out. I've shown her this, and it just seems to go over her head. So let me hit that mute button, mute, and mute button. And the other three, I talked to, but I had to ghost her because she was the one who was like being a bugaboo. You know what I mean? She just wouldn't. And so the rest of them, when I dated and talked to them, none of us, I couldn't be there for them. I wasn't intimidated by none of them. I just knew some of them. One of them liked to live very luxury.
Right.
She stayed in Briar Creek. She had a one of them. I think she was renting a townhouse in Briar Creek, and she liked to live luxury. And she would tell me that kind of stuff while we were sitting down. Like she told me she wanted a daggone motorcycle car called a Maserati. She got Louis Vuitton. She likes to live luxury. I'm like, okay. I'm listening to her, and the whole time I'm listening to them, ladies, when you listen to your man or listen to the person you're dating, it's about collecting data. It's about taking note. And when they're not even writing the same things you're wanting, if they're not writing or saying the same things that you want in the future, don't be afraid to walk away. When you're too afraid to walk away, you're wasting his time and you're wasting yours, unless you all are just there like I was, trying to learn from each other. It depends on what stage you're at in your life. When you're in your 20s, you have a lot more time. When you're in your 30s, ladies, you can't give birth but for so long. When you're in your 40s, normally you had time to learn everything you need to learn from the past. But I mean, everybody's at different stages. So, but still, there were times like, I
personally think that the old school, I hear people say this, they say, oh, I want the old school relationship,
yep.
but they want the modern gender roles. And the reason I say they don't mesh together is because society has changed so much in terms of gender roles and relationship roles and what people do in relationships. And like you said, people take a piece of this, a piece of that, maybe a piece of what their parents did, maybe they saw their aunt, uncle do this, their grandparents do this. And some people are still able to live that way, but you don't see it too often, I would say. I mean, I guess it really depends on where you live. Like I would say if you're more in like a city situation or the suburbs, you don't really see it too often. But you do see it from the standpoint of like in the burbs, you see more, depending on which suburb you live in or whatever, you see stay-at-home moms or whatever, in certain situations like that. But I wouldn't consider that like an old school relationship, because you still, that's existed forever. More women are working these days than have ever worked in the history of this country or in the history of the world. And so there's various aspects that some people say they want in an old school relationship. Maybe it's where when they go out, man pays for this. If I do this, maybe it's the guy doesn't cook, he wants the female to cook. Those are just two glaring examples or whatever. But at the same time, they still want these other modern gender roles. These modern things that take place in a relationship. Like I've heard a female, especially on social media, females talking about chivalry and how they think chivalry's dead. But guess what? I've personally witnessed guys, especially, and it depends on where you live, right? The South is different from the Northeast versus the Midwest, the West Coast. It's very different. But even in the South, I've seen a guy hold a door for a female, and the female almost curse him out. And so when you do something like that, that guy, I don't care who you are, that guy's gonna be like, you know what? I'm done doing this. I'm not holding doors. I'm not doing any of that anymore.
And you know what?
Be careful. Like you say, you want this chivalrous guy, but then he holds the door for you, and you think he's trying to come on to you. He's trying to get your number. He's trying to do all these things. Guess what? He may have just said, you know what? She had some bags in her hand. I caught a glance. Maybe I knew she wasn't going to be able to open the door. I held the door. It's nothing personal. I don't even have to talk to you. I'm just holding the door and I'm keeping it moving. You know what I'm saying?
Now, this is somebody he just saw in the community, though, right?
Yeah, this is just a random thing I saw one day.
Mm-hmm. And see, there's women like that. Like, all right, well, when stuff I've learned, man, when stuff like that gets on your last nerves, that's a sign of try to find something you learn from it and keep it moving. Don't even say nothing back. Like, don't let none of that negative energy. I don't know. I don't know if it was her time of the month.
Having a bad day. Maybe she was having a bad day.
Hey, Sam, it probably was her time of the month.
Oh.
So
I won't blame. Maybe the guy she was dealing with and having drama with looked just like you. You reminded him. Maybe he reminded him of her of him, and maybe who knows what was going on. All I'm saying is you got to be careful the way you treat people. If you say, "Hey, I want this old school relationship," this guy holding doors, bringing flowers, every week
for no reason,
for no reason, doing this, doing that, and all of a sudden you blowing up on him, trying to do some of those very things because maybe it reminded you of some other negative experience that you had with XYZ over here. You know what I'm saying? So you just got to be careful with those things.
Now, see, all that and all that, man, is I think whether you're modern or old fashioned, it's all that should be said when you sit there and you talking on the phone to him or her. That's when all that should.
People don't talk on the phone anymore, Bruce. You see, you're showing your age, man. People don't talk on the phone. They're on Snapchat and Instagram and TikTok, and they slide in those DMs. You ever seen that guy?
I mean, DM, however they do, man. My thing is, however you communicate with him or her, that's when all that should be said and done. And if the person isn't telling you, if they're not telling you what you are expecting, that's why I always tell folks. I even told you'll tell this one day, man. I'm like, write out what you need, what you want, what you deserve, your heart desires, your preferences. And if the person is not applying your preferences or your heart desires without you telling them, that's a sign to move on or don't get too attached. Because the minute you tell them, I like a man who drives this, I like a man who does this, I like a woman who has that, what they do is they try to go get that just to impress you, to win you over. But when you let them tell you, hey, I like to open the door for my woman. I like to cook for her. I like when he's telling her that, or when she's telling him, I like to be with a man who has vision. I like to support his dreams. If she's telling you this without you even bringing it to her attention, then those are signs to move forward. And that's another thing when that's another reason why so many old traditional times worked was sometimes they even have a cell phone. I mean, they didn't have even a house phone. All they had was face to face to see each other's true actions. That's another.
But nobody has house phones these days.
So no. I'm saying phone, some kind of communication. But I mean, back in them days, they saw each other's true colors face to face almost daily, whether it was in the tobacco field, at the store, school, wherever that you saw that person at daily, is you saw their true colors.
That must be.
That's a factor in today's time. You don't see colors as often because you can't see true colors over.
We're almost to time here.
Yeah.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in today. We had some guests that we haven't seen in a long time and haven't seen their faces and talked to them in a minute, years, like 15 plus years. So it was good to see them pop in, say what's up, and tune in. All you guys that are tuning in, make sure you guys go subscribe and like. That's Chaos Conversation on Facebook, Chaos Conversation on Instagram, YouTube, Chaos Convo on TikTok, and Twitter as well, right? Check out all those mediums, follow us. You can check out the videos. We put these videos up on YouTube as well, and we put little clips up, like I said, little interviews and things like that we're doing out and about. Maybe we're traveling and we just want to talk to people. Guess what? We're gonna put those videos, and we've been putting those up on TikTok, trying to build that audience there. So, hey, we thank you guys for tuning in. It's Tuesday, beginning of the week. Tomorrow's Hump Day. Be safe. Have a great rest of the week, and maybe you can apply something. Maybe you learned something today. Maybe it piqued your interest, and maybe you can say, you know what, I do need to work on that. Or you might be like Bruce and be like, you know what, I'm gonna become a passport bro. Maybe that's what you want to do. So, it's it. But until next week, we thank you guys for tuning in, and hey, we'll be with you guys next week.
Peace.